This is our third webinar in the financial year 21-22. Today our topic is recent changes in company law, a breakthrough. And our honorable speaker is our very own CA Animesh Mukhopadhyay. Animesh is the former president of Accountants Library. There has been some very important changes in Company Act 2013, including changes in Schedule 3. Mr. Mukhopadhyay will deliberate on such changes. Now I will take the pleasure of introducing Mr. Mukhopadhyay. Animesh Mukhopadhyay is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and has a post-CA qualification in the field of information system audit. He is also a qualified insolvency professional and member of the Indian Institute of Insolvency Professional, ICAI. His main area of expertise includes corporate laws, merger and acquisition, matters connected to US corporate laws and investment opportunities, collaboration matters, working on SOX, issues connected to investigations and appeal cases of companies of NCLT level, advisory services on public issue matters, matters pertaining to takeovers, mergers, etc. Further, Mr. Mukhopadhyay is presently serving as a resolution professional in various companies and providing support services under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. Mr. Mukhopadhyay has served and represented various companies on issues relating to erstwhile Company Law Board and presently at various NCLT benches and investigation matters situated in West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Northeast India, Orissa, Mumbai and Delhi. He regularly advises to various US-based investors investing in India as well as Indian investors investing in US. He is also a trainer on corporate laws and compliances and serves companies based all over India. He is a prolific speaker on issues of corporate laws and regularly speaks on issues related to corporate laws in various forums and study circles of ICAI. He has served as one of the contributors of CARO 2016 guidance note published by ICAI. Now, I'll also state here that CA Devan Patru, Secretary IRC of ICAI and Vice President Accountants Library, will be conducting the session and will propose vote of thanks also. So, without wasting any more time, I will just request Mr. Mukhopadhyay to start his deliberation. Animesh, please start.
Good evening, friends. It is a real honor to address this honorable house, and that too being a past president of this library. I'm really honored, elated, thankful to Oninda, deputy convener of the library, Indu Chatrat is a convener, and the entire committee members of Accountants Library, and our beloved president, Monish Tiwari. Very good evening to everybody. I believe it is good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody.
Animesh.
Yes.
Animesh, excuse me. I think Manish, are you there?
I'm there. I'm here.
Manish, please tell something.
I'm here.
Sorry,
Okay. Manish is here.
No.
Yeah, please.
Please.
There's no informality. See, I welcome all the delegates on behalf of the library and on my individual behalf. And we were eagerly waiting for Animesh Da to give his deliberations. So I will not be coming in between the deliberations and the participants. So I request Animesh Da to start his deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you, Manish. Animesh.
Yeah. So, very good afternoon to all. Now, let me start the deliberations because the topic is about recent changes and a walkthrough in these changes. So, there are plenty of things which have happened, which are going to happen and happening every day. We are finding there are so much of changes that, taking place, and we need to grasp each and everything. Being the professionals, we need to deliver finally at the end of the day. So with this note, in fact, before starting, just let me give a brief overview that this deliberation will cover definitely the Schedule 3, because that is, very important and everyday, usage. And specifically, I'm avoiding to discuss on Caro, because Caro is not going to be applicable for this year. So it will be coming in the next year. So we are just keeping it aside. And then there are plenty of circulars and notifications which are pertinent, which are very important because of the fact that there are certain very significant changes and some new benefits and new avenues that have been opened up by introduction of these circulars and notifications that MCA has brought in. So I have tried to cover those. And mainly this stretches about since January 2021 till date. So this I have covered. Now this deliberation is prepared. In fact, I'll be sharing this thing over screen, and also this can be later on shared to others. But this one is actually prepared not in the PPT form, but in a PDF form. So I believe there will be no problem, because the circulars I have kept it as it is instead of keeping it or extracting it from the original circulars. So let me just share the screen and start my deliberations. Give me 2 minutes time. Is it okay? Right. So now to start with, this I always try to include that very significantly this observation has come to our notice, that in spite of so much of trouble in the economy, so much of jobless employees all around, we are finding that in the last 1 year period, the highest number of companies have been opened, and that too from Maharashtra. They are having the highest representations in terms of the opening or incorporation of the company, which is something very peculiar. But what I have noticed that in most of the cases, now people are preferring to go for more organized structure, might be for banking requirements and obtaining of loans, because husband, wife, small company, and also at the same time, due to ease of doing business, more number of companies might have come up, but this is something very significant. So rise of more than 21% in last 9 months, April to December. So compared to earlier year. So that means this is something where actually we find a conflicting position, that considering the incorporation or number of creations of the company and your total, the economic scenario, these two actually cannot, not going in the similar direction or synchronizing. So, but their social scientists will and economists will take call of this, but this is something which I find very, significant to mention. Now, to start with, this MCA site also has gone overhauling. version 3.0 has come. Although the situation of this site is not what we are finding in case of income tax. But yes, definitely the site has got a, visible and tangible beneficial areas that is there. But at the same time, I must say that the glitches are still there. As a professional, we always face the hardship every day, every now and then. And I don't know why this thing is not getting, probably they are taking measures in the back end, but still glitches are there, but not like what we are finding in income tax side. Now, in this version 3.0, there are significant things which we are noticing. One is the most important, that is scrutiny. And this scrutiny is everywhere. Now it is in MC also. Be very cautious about this. MC is in the process of setting up central scrutiny cell. And this thing will finally continue till October. By the end of October, they want to finalize all these things in order, everything will come into play. Gradually, they are proceeding towards that destination. But this e-scrutiny is something which is really going to be very, very important matter, or very, significant matter in our profession, because we might be going to face more number of scrutinies. Now the scrutiny avenue is going to open for company law matters also, particularly in where the STP mode, various forms we find that they are actually getting filed under straight through process mode. Now here you will find the scrutiny cell will take the lead and will issue the notices, ask for the clarifications if they find any deviations, delinquencies, or any wrong thing that has happened. So be very cautious. And once you are signing, once you are putting your valuable digital signature as a professional, be very cautious about the laws. Particularly, we find that in case of copy paste, like a director's meeting, the director is not there, his signature he is staying elsewhere, his signature is sent over mail and getting it copied and pasted over the resolution. Don't do these things, because they have the softwares to find out, and they will mention that this signature is copied and pasted. So this is not a right gesture for the concerned professional. But at the same time, this is also unfortunate, but this is really something which we have noticed. Like a professional is certifying a form, and he has no time to get into the details of the form, and A company's form is getting filed with B company's balance sheets. So terrible. I mean, these offenses have got no explanations, and at the same time what to say. So be very cautious about these issues. E-adjudication module, it has been conceptualized to manage the increased volume of adjudication proceedings. So that will facilitate the end-to-end digitizations. Then you will find the e-consultations. These are all artificially intelligent driven process actually. Now, compliance management system, it will assist the MC in identifying non-compliant companies. E-notices automatically will be issued. MCA lab, the primary function of this lab will be to evaluate the effectiveness of the compliance management system. Now, the central scrutiny cell, it shall function under the administrative control of the e-governance cell. The main idea is the scrutinizing certain STP forms, and it has already been started, in fact. Along with this, one also very important thing, although I'll be covering this schedule 3 later on, but just to add here, uh, in this respect, MC is also now issuing notices for wrong formats you have maintained, or rather you as an auditor, you have signed uh, in the accounts, and that accounts has actually deviated from the schedule 3, which was previously schedule 6. So this schedule 3 deviation is section 129 violation, because 129 specifically mentions this matter to follow accounting standard under section 133 and schedule 3. So schedule 3 deviation is a dangerous thing. And now after the changes, the amendments and the changes which has taken place in schedule 3, be very careful, start the operation, start the checking from this year, because it has already come into existence. It has been now, it is effective since 1st of April 2021. So be very cautious about that. Go through the changes, what exactly the changes have taken place. And you should be very careful at the end of the year, because you know what is happening, that in case of this deviations from your schedule 3, not only it is the responsibility of the client, I mean the company, it is equally the responsibility auditor to make the comment about the deviations. And even we are finding cases where a regrouping has been done, regrouping with the earlier years has been done by the company, which is significant in nature, where certain class of assets, or rather from your say other current assets, now this has been converted, or this has been regrouped to non-current assets. So all these sort of things, these deviations, these deviation needs to be pointed out by the auditor. If the auditor is satisfied, working paper should be there, otherwise you will face the music. So these things are happening. Be very careful. Now, promote transparency, professional skepticism, raise red flags, and disciplinary actions finally. So this is what we are finding in the changes or the intention of the government. But at the same time, this is also something which is really, every day we are finding it. Like I'm just pointing out, like all of a sudden we find that the session is getting expired. Then even if you try to enter in the session, you cannot. Nobody knows, it is not properly mentioned what would be the right your web browser to use, whether it is Chrome, whether it is any other web browser. So like challan payment done, but you are not getting the challan generated, you are not getting the OTP in the right time. Even at the time of creation of the company, once you put all the applications, I mean the main form, the agile, so all these forms, when after this, when you upload, and finally, when you make the payment, then after that, generally you are supposed to get for once you get the number of the initial challan, the original one, then you get the your number, so that you need to put that in your stamp duty payment, but you are not getting it. So these glitches are there. We are complaining, but I don't know why this is not getting addressed properly. Yes. So next is circular number 8, 2021, This is something important because this is regarding the board meeting. Now, the board meeting is now no longer that 4 board meetings. Accordingly, gap between 2 consecutive meetings of the board may extend to 180 days. And this is effective till September 2021. So that gap of 120 days has now been extended to 180 days. So at least in 6 months period, you need to hold 2 board meetings. I mean, now it is a gap of 180 days, which is allowed. So 2 board meetings will suffice in a year, but this is effective till September. Relaxations on the levy of additional fees in filing of certain forms. This is not related to your CAG 1 or CAG 9 or CAG 4, but this is related to other forms like your LLP return, annual return, Form 11, your DPT 3, your SME 1. So these forms, which actually supposed to be filed within 31st of July, this actually has been extended again. So I'm going to the next circular. Yes, this is actually issued on 30th of June. This is the latest one, where actually till the end of 31st August, you are getting time. So, and there will be no additional fee if your filing period falls within this period. Apart from that, the other forms might also come, like your, say, DIR 12. If you even miss the period, if you even miss the time, at least there will be no additional fees if the thing is getting, rectified within this period or getting filed within this period. So 31st July has been extended to 31st August. Now, this is a very important notification. I'm just skipping the Hindi part. Yeah. Right. No, circular. Just a minute. Yeah. So this is related to 5th March 2021. This is related to MGT 7, annual return. So now, annual return for small and 1-person company is a different one. That is 7A. And 7 is for other companies. Now to recall, hope everybody has remembered the definition or the changes that has taken place. This is very important. Your subsection 85 talks about your small company. So what is a small company? Small company means where the paid up capital is 2 crore and the turnover 20 crore. So this is a change that has taken place over the previous one, that is of 50 lakh and your, I believe it was 2 crore. So now it is the small company, the paid up capital is 2 crore and the turnover clause is about 20 crore. Now this, your return form, what exactly has the changes that actually has taken place? Now, why this has been done? Empowering the central government to prescribe an abridged form, because this was also told previously in the Companies Amendment Act. I believe in 2017, the act which came, the Amendment Act, there actually about the abridged matter was discussed. But finally, 4 years passed by. So now it has come. Now, empowering the central government to prescribe an abridged form of annual return of this OPC and your small companies, deletion of the requirement to furnish details of indebtedness, deletion of requirement to furnish the details indicating the names, addresses, countries of incorporation, registration, and percentage of shareholding of FIIs, doing away with the requirement of annexing extract of the annual return to the board's report. Because now what has happened? The link will be provided, the web link. So that web link needs to be connected to find the extract. So there are plenty of changes that has taken place. Most importantly, in case of MGT 7A, which is actually for one-person company and small company, there the certification of the company secretary is no longer there. It is still valid for MGT 7, but for MGT 7A, it is not there. And these changes are mostly, I'm not going into detail of the form because this you can always fill it up once you go through or once you, approach for filing the annual return. So basically now the important part is the benefit is that OPCs and your small companies will be enjoying a different annual return form, where MGT 9 is no longer required to be, attached with the form. And there are certain other changes in the field level. So that is not worth mentioning now, that once you go and approach for filing this, you can, come to know. Yeah. Next is compromise arrangements and amalgamations amendment rules in terms of your merger with 2 or more startup companies, 1 or more startup with another small company. This is very, very important because now one concept is about this startup. We need to be, part of this process. As a professional, our role is very, very significant in terms of your SME growth, small and medium enterprise, growth of small and medium enterprise. And there's a huge, wide and huge platform has come now into play, which we can take care of. Because if you see, I have a few data on this. This is something, in fact, 6.3 crore units are there as SMEs, where 110 million people work, and they contribute about 30% of the GDP, both in your considering the manufacturing GDP as well as the service GDP. So, and if you consider the structure, the demographic structure of our practicing fraternity also, the structure of the firms also, I believe around more than 70% firms are small and medium-sized firms. So we have enormous scope. And not only that, another very important thing is that now when IBC came in 2016, there it became a weapon in the hands of all. I mean, it gave really a level playing field to all categories of industries and all categories of, business houses. Because of the fact that the threshold limit to lodge the case was very low. It is about 1 lakh. So we have seen a lot of cases that time. and particularly the Section 9 cases, that is about the operational creditors, not the financial creditors like banks or financial institutions. But in case of the operational creditors, the number of cases were just unthinkable. Now, it has got a good side, it has got a bad side. The good side was that definitely the small micro level players, they got a really level playing field. They at least could bargain, they at least could, flex their muscles. That days after days they were suffering, they were not getting their payments, and a very large house, had to appear in the court of law and face the queries of the small player, the micro player, why he didn't give that money to him. But the bad side is that people took advantage. There are plenty of, you know, uh, cooked up cases, well articulated cases where things were arranged in a different dimension. And this way, many things happened. So finally, and at the same time, also the COVID, the pandemic came. Really, the economy went into a very serious situation. The small industries, they had to suffer. They had to take the brunt of the economic situations because of the fact that orders were not there, adequate requirements were not there, demand came down. So all these things, considering all these things, finally the threshold limit went up, and now it has become 1 crore. Now, after becoming of this 1 crore, many large players again started taking the advantage. Because now keeping 1 crore as due, and that too after not getting it, going to NCLT, lodging a IBC case, for a small player, it's pretty difficult, very difficult. But if you see the SME benefits, SME has got a platform of SME Samadhan, SME Sampark, and MSME your Sambandh. So these three things are very important. Please, friends, try out this Sampark, Samadhan, and Sambandh. Now, this Samadhan site, SME Samadhan site, if the large house not paying the small player beyond 45 days, he can file the case with all the documents, work orders, and the default history with the MSME or SME Samadhan site. And there is a SME Facilitation Council. They will take care of this thing. They will directly follow up this matter with the errant big house for recovering proceedings. SME Sampark is there. SME Sampark will provide the job, job platform for people who are seeking jobs. SME Sambandh, they provide the procurement platform where the people, the GEM platform is there. So these are the areas which we must advise to the clients. Now, those days are gone that you'll only stick to your concentrated area. You need to, spread your wings, and you need to understand what the requirement of the client is. And this SME sector is very, very important in the days to come, because, a lot of professionals are also coming in this SME sector. Now, coming back to the discussion, this startup is also one of the essential aspects of this SME. 2 or more startup companies, how they can do the merger, or one startup with one small company. Startup means a private company incorporated under the Companies Act and recognized as such in accordance with the notification number, GSR. So you just go through this. And here, right. One important thing is every state actually has got a startup policy, industrial policy. So here in Bengal also, if you go through that Startup Bengal, that is a policy of West Bengal government for startups. And now this is actually effective from 1st of January 2016 to 31st of December 2021. Then again, the new policy would be coming. But now this existing policy for this 5-year period. So please go through that. There, the concept of incubator is there, how and what benefits the startups can, enjoy. All these things are there. So this merger is also very important in case of startups. So that is now separately discussed in this particular circular. Now, about this startup, little bit of this thing I have tried. Yes, I have tried to cover this also. This is taken from Ministry of Commerce and Industry site. Up to a period of 10 years from the date of incorporation, it will be considered as a startup. But it needs to be incorporated as a private limited company or registered as a partnership or a LLP. So a limited company cannot be a startup one. Turnover of the entity for any of the financial years has not exceeded 100 crore. Entities working towards innovation, development, or involvement of products or process or services, or a scalable business model should be there. So we find plenty of these things. In nowadays, technology is a driving force. So the model should be a scalable model, scalable business model. You see what Byju's has done. A change, change like anything. So this is something like that. Startup always, seeks the innovation. Now, after completion of 10 years, it will cease to be a startup. A startup shall make an online application to the portal of this DP IIT and shall be accompanied by all these things. So this is something, and the benefits are also there, Section 80 IAC. Now, yes, next topic is about, this is something, this is just GST at the time of incorporation. Now, what is happening in case of incorporation of a new company, you are getting the, at the same time, simultaneously, you are also getting the GST number, the PF number, the ESI one, and your, I think, profession tax is also going to come. In Maharashtra, I believe that it has already come. And so here, actually, the linking of this Aadhaar and GSTIN, for that, actually, a circular has come. This is relating to 25th January circular. This is relating to objections. Objections when? Rule 41. Rule 41 actually talks about the conversion of public company to private one. Now, previously in Rule 41, if the objection used to come, then, and if that objection could not be sorted out, then RD, means the central government, RD had no power to intervene in that way. What RD used to do, he used to give a timeline, and after that, if the the disputes still continued, then it had to be cancelled or the application could not be proceeded with. But now it has been, as a part of, again, the ease of doing business, power is given to RD. So Honorable RD can take the, course of action in the way that if he is satisfied, then he can allow this thing to happen, the conversion process, in spite of having any objections. But that needs to be finally adjudged as not in against or not against of the law or not in against of any principle of the companies. Right. This is relating to your remuneration. Remuneration for NED, that is non-executive directors, and your independent directors. Now, in case of remuneration, just a minute. Right. So, friends, coming back to this Schedule 5, now this has been effective since 18th of March 2021. In case of remuneration, previously, the last column, that is column number 3, here actually it has been now allowed that in case of if the company has not earned profit, then whether it is remuneration can be paid to non-executive directors or independent directors, because they play a very significant role in running the company. Previously, it was not there, but now it has been included. And one important thing is, if you see, first thing is, don't get confused that this remuneration maximum limit, this is not applicable in case of private limited company. So this is only for the limited companies. Now, now this remuneration, previously we used to find that this is a managerial remuneration. So managerial remuneration consists only of the whole-time director, the executive director's part. So now they have also included the remuneration for other directors. Here, other directors means the non-executive directors and the independent directors, and the limit is provided here. Yes, this is also everyday usage. 23rd June 2021, ordinary and special resolutions. So still now the scope or the possibility and the threat of pandemic is there. So your extraordinary general meeting, this can be held over VC or OAVM mode till 31st of December 2021. Yeah. This is relating to modification of charges. This is charges, filing of charges, for which this is again previous circular. So if we go to the latest one, yes, this is the latest one, 30th of June. So here, in continuation of General Circular number 7, 2021, that is on 3rd of May, now the period has been extended from 31st May to 31st July. So what was the circular all about? Let me just go through it once. This is, if your form filing, if your filing is before 1/4/2021, but the timeline for filing such form had not expired under section 77, that is 30 days, then thereafter 300 days. So 30 days is the scheduled time. So had not expired under section 77 or, but as on 1/4/2021, or falls on any date between 1/4/2021 to between 1/4/2021 and 31st of May 2021. So this 31st of May 2021 will be extended. So in that case, your entire period, this period will be actually called legally the exclusion period. So now everything will be reckoned from 1st of June for the purpose of counting the number of days within which the form is required to be filed under 77 or section 78. And in case if the form is filed in respect of situations covered, this is the period beginning from the date of creation or modification of charge shall not be reckoned, again the same period. So this entire period is actually excluded for the sake of pandemic. So here it has been extended to 31st of July. This remuneration I have already covered. This is also covered. This is the independent directors data bank. So this data bank actually will be there for, I believe many of us actually, we have cleared the independent directors examination. So they shall come into force for the official gazette. Then this is actually a data bank that needs to be where the names of the person will be included. This has now been started. This is on 23rd June. For small companies, all the accounting standards issued by ICAI is now applicable. From 1 to 5, 6 is withdrawn, 7 and 9 to 29. So the entire set of accounting standards will be applicable here. But one thing is there, that an existing company, which was previously not a small company and subsequently becomes a small company, shall not be qualified for exemption or relaxations in respect of accounting standards available to SMC until the company remains a SMC for 2 consecutive accounting periods. Now, so these are mostly about your notifications and circular part. Now we are coming to Schedule 3, which is extremely important for a Delhi, the verification of the accounts. And one very important thing also, before starting Schedule 3, I just want to share one thing. So it will create a mood of, listening to Schedule 3. In fact, this Schedule 3 will be covering something called the conduit expenditure, intermediary. Like the source is giving, the source is A, the intermediary is B, and finally the beneficiary is C. Now, in between this, the role of B and how the money is getting routed from the source to the ultimate beneficiary, that is called the camouflaging of transaction, the masking of transaction. So now this Schedule 3 is very, very clear about this thing. And we have seen enough number of cases where this camouflaging has been done. Party to this is the finance professionals, the companies, everybody. So this camouflaging, like the lending, the investments, because previously this is the way we used to find that chit funds, that modus operandi, they followed. So this is something which actually has taken care of. And very importantly, auditor has a very significant role in terms of reporting of this camouflaging matter. Now, the question generally comes, is camouflaging an illegal thing? No. Camouflaging, masking is not the illegal thing as long as the source and the destination, means the ultimate beneficiary and the source, both are identifiable, and the entire trail of expenditure has got its transparency. If you notice section 185 talks that it prohibits direct and indirect loans, investments, guarantees, securities to the directors. Again, if you see FEMA, the definition foreign equity holder includes those equity holders having 51% of the indirect equity holding. Section 186 refers to investment through one or more layers of the subsidiaries. It is mentioned in the Act. In many commercial transactions, the recipient is acting as a conduit, lending through like fintech platform, special purpose vehicle, SPV mode. So these are all allowed as per law, but transparency should be there. Now, there are actually three legs of these transactions: a source transaction, a conduit transactions, and finally the ultimate beneficiary transaction. So we'll be coming to that. Let us move on. Now, on 24th of March 2021, Schedule 3 got amended and became effective from 1st of April 2021. Now, in this Schedule 3, in fact, if you see the category of companies, it is Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. Division 1 where the Accounting Standard Rules 2006 is applicable. Division 2 companies where Ind AS companies are there, and Division 3 are there where NBFCs are there. Intention was to, finally, I'm not going into those details. I mean, how this Ind AS got covered and how these things will be moving on in future. But one important thing is that I have covered here Division 1, and these Division 1 changes are equally applicable to your Division 2 and Division 3 changes. So these are mostly similar in nature. So let us concentrate in Division 1 changes. Under the heading General Instructions for Preparation of Balance Sheet and Statement of PL, turnover is now dispensed with, total income is now substituted. So instead of turnover, it is now total income. Under the assets, non-current assets, that is the fixed assets, property, plant and equipment, as you know, is a new keyword, or rather instead of fixed asset, we use this in consonance or in similar, in parity with your Ind AS or IFRS approach. So here, property, plant and equipment, the words intangible assets will also be inserted. And for the words tangible assets, the words property, plant and equipment shall be substituted. This is a thing which really going to matter us. Now, in sub-rule 3, in sub-rule 1 of rule 3, that is 3.1 of this company's accounts rules, provided for the financial year commencing on or after 1/4/21, every company which uses accounting software for maintaining its books of accounts shall use only such accounting software which has a feature of recording the audit trail of each and every transaction, creating an edit log of each change in the books, along with the date when such change were made, ensuring that the audit trail cannot be disabled. So it is a permanent feature. It is a permanent feature and the greatest dhamaka in this change. So we all know how difficult it is. But now this has been actually deferred considering the practical difficulties of this thing. This will be effective from next year. But again, this will be effective. That is for certain. Because of the fact your faceless assessment, because of the fact some other regulatory authorities and their intention to be more vigilant on the activities of the company. So the audit log has to be there. And any point of time, this audit log can be asked from you. You need to explain why, what has happened. You cannot do, or you cannot accept to, consider something which is just getting arranged before the finalization date, before the filing date. So we all know what happens. But this is something terrible. I mean, and now what I have learned that Tally Prime, in case of, I'm just naming the software also, because this is the most used software we generally do, that is a Tally software. So there, the existing version cannot work, because there this permanent audit trail feature is not there. For that, they are having a different version. QuickBooks is having also some other softwares also. They're having, in fact, all the improved softwares are having this audit trail features, but that needs to be a permanent one. You need to ensure that, because you need to also report this in the auditor's report. That will be covering. So this amendment is, I believe, one of the most significant changes that has taken place. And each and every transaction needs to have this audit trail, creating the edit log of each change made in the books. What are the changes that has taken place? Why these changes have been done? So everything would be there in this edit log, which the authority, the regulatory authority, can, scrutinize. Yes, from 1st April, GSR 247E, it came on first, this circular also came on 1st of April. So now it has been shifted to 1st April 2022. Another important thing is, in Rule 8.5, after Clause 10, the details of applications made or any proceedings pending under the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code during the year, along with the status, that needs to be mentioned. The details of difference between amount of the valuations done at the time of OTS and when the initial loan taken, initial exposure availed. Why the difference in the valuation? That you need to mention. But this is not applicable for OPCs and small companies. Now, audit trail is defined as a step-by-step sequential record. So this is just an explanation. Right. Now, 11D, this you see this. This is the change in the company's audit and auditors rules. Rule 11D is no longer there, where actually specified bank notes, SBN is mentioned. So no longer that needs to be mentioned. New inclusion, whether the management has represented that to the best of its knowledge and belief, other than as disclosed in the notes to accounts, no funds have been advanced or loaned or invested by the company to or in any other person or entities, that the intermediary, with the understanding, whether recorded in writing or otherwise, with the understanding whether recorded in writing or otherwise, very important, that the intermediary shall directly, indirectly lend, invest in other persons or entities identified in any manner whatsoever on behalf of the company or provide any guarantee, security, or the like on behalf of the ultimate beneficiaries. So number one to be noticed, with the understanding whether recorded in writing or otherwise. So recording or mode of recording is not important. Important is there should be something in terms of in writing or otherwise. That should be there. Next is to the ultimate beneficiaries. That's what actually I was trying to communicate. That is, there should be the transparency. There should be the masking should be absolutely transparent. Now, this needs to be mentioned. Whether the management has represented to the best of his knowledge, other than as disclosed in the notes to accounts, no funds have been received by the company from any person or persons or entities, including foreign parties, with the understanding, whether recorded in writing or otherwise, that the company shall, whether directly or indirectly, lend or invest in other persons or entities identified in any manner whatsoever by or on behalf of. So this is lending, like your advancing, like your investments. So these are the areas where actually this masking takes place. Commercial transactions, they are not covered because that comes in the general parlance on everyday note. Non-discretionary transactions, that will not come. It is discretion. If it is discretionary, that is important. That as an auditor, we have the responsibility to find out. Intermediary or the source, they have got no role to play here. Any discretion is avoidable. Pre-contemplated transfer to the ultimate beneficiary. Very important. Direct nexus. There should be a direct nexus. It cannot be indirect. Intent of camouflaging the chain financial transaction is present. Now, the question comes, for instance, if the transaction by the source to the intermediary happens on the 1st of every month, and the transaction by the intermediary to the beneficiary happens on 4th of every month, whether this is actually discretionary in nature or it is something which is really, hiding the nature, hiding the transparency. So this needs to be clear that this gap of timing, if it is related to, if it doesn't give rise to anything opaque, anything, non-explainable, then it should be avoided. Otherwise, it is okay. So the basic intention is to, keep the transaction channel clean. Absolutely. Now, based on such audit procedures, the auditor has considered reasonable and appropriate in circumstances. Nothing has come to the notice and has caused them to believe that the representations are having any material misstatements. Whether the dividend declared, this is also one of the important changes in this auditor's rules. Whether the dividend declared or paid during the year by the company is in compliance of 123. Whether the company has used such accounting software, again, this now it is your responsibility to mention, like the one that is being mentioned in the case of board's report here. Whether the company has used such accounting software for maintaining its books of account, which is feature of recording the audit trail. So you are taking the onus of mentioning it, that it is under proper operation, under proper working. You cannot deviate from what you are telling. So be very cautious. Now, general instructions for preparation of the balance sheets. The rounding of thing has come now, less than 100 crore to the nearest hundreds, thousands, lakhs, or millions. or decimals thereof, more than 100 crore to the nearest lakhs or millions or crores. Additional disclosure. In the notes to the balance sheet, shareholding of promoters. Previously, we used to give 5% and above. But now, for all the promoters, see the columns. Shares held by the promoters at the end of the year. Serial number, promoter's name, number of shares, percentage of total shares. So this way, the entire thing, the change, percentage of change, not 5% now. Now, under this share capital, general instructions for preparation of the balance sheets, share capital, trade payables, right? Not this one. Come to this, trade payables, very important. Now, trade payables, aging schedule, that needs to be disclosed in the notes. Companies henceforth be required to provide an aging schedule for trade payables to the periodicity of 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and more than 3 years. And again, this needs to be bifurcated to MSME, to disputed dues to MSMEs, and other dues and disputed dues. So 4 different, parameters or 4 different divisions. MSME, disputed MSME, non-MSME, disputed non-MSME. Similarly, disclosure shall also be made where no due date of payment is specified. Specific, different observations. Information for unbilled dues is also required to be disclosed separately. This is for the trade payables. So this will be more or less the presentation. Next is your trade receivables. Similar line. Here, undisputed dues, disputed trade receivables considered good and doubtful with the aging as 6 months. 6 months to 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and 3 years above. Separate disclosures for the unbilled dues. Now here the trade receivables aging schedule. You see this. This will look like the one that has been shown here. So undisputed particulars in the particulars column, that undisputed trade receivables considered good, undisputed trade receivables doubtful, then disputed considered good and disputed considered doubtful, and your divisions of the timeline would be less than 6 months. So 6 months to 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and more than 3 years. Title deeds of immovable property not held in the name of the company. This title deeds, these Benami properties, these are again also covered in your Caro reporting. The company shall provide the details of the immovable properties other than the properties where the company is a lessee, whose title deeds are not held in the name of the company. If such immovable property is jointly held with others, all the names. Company shares. Now, disclosure on revaluation of assets, where the company has revalued the property, plant and equipment, the company shall disclose as to whether the revaluation is based on the valuation by the IBBI qualified registered valuer. And a reconciliation process with the gross and net carrying amounts of each class of assets at the beginning and at the end of the reporting period. In case of revaluation, showing additions, disposals, acquisitions through business combination amount to change due to revaluation, if the change is 10% or more. Under this intangible assets, a similar line, reconciliation should be there, net carrying amount and the gross amount. And finally, in case of revaluation, if the change is more than 10%, then separate disclosures for that. Capital WIP, aging schedule should be there. This would be the aging schedule of the capital WIP. Less than 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and more than 3 years. So very vivid in starting from your trade creditors to debtors, then your capital WIP, very vividly, everything is now getting reflected. Projects in progress, projects temporarily suspended, and total shall tally with the capital WIP amount in the balance sheet. That is this one, the first one, then project in progress and temporarily suspended projects. Now, in case of capital WIP whose completion is overdue or has exceeded its cost, a separate disclosure is required to be maintained. A separate disclosure on year-wise breakup needs to be there, where the cost has exceeded the value. Disclosures on loans, advances to directors, KMPs, or related parties. Now, this disclosure shall be made where loans and advances are actually granted to promoters, to your key managerial personnels, either severally or jointly with any other person, that are repayable on demand or without specifying any terms or period of payment. We always find these sort of disturbing figures, getting carried over from year to year for a long time. So now, and especially these are the risk areas. This used to be in case of, the chit funds and your so-called shell companies. The modus operandi is like this. They used to, bring the funds from a different source, and finally these funds used to go through a proper mode as advance to the directors or the KMPs, and generally after that everyone has gone. So that was the way they used to operate. They used to, swindle the money. So this needs to be, disclosed. But one thing is what I find, that we always give the related party disclosure. It is already in practice. So in spite of that, again, the separate disclosure, it appears that it is a duplication. But for a better transparency, I believe that they have introduced this thing. This is the presentation format. Type of borrower, that is promoter, director, KMP, related party, amount of loan or advance in the nature of loan outstanding, and percentage to the total loan and advances in the nature of loans. That is important. The third column is also very important. Amount of loan, total loan outstanding, and the percentage to the total loans and in the nature of loans. That is very important. Yeah. Details of Benami properties. Now, if proceedings have been initiated or pending against the entity under these Benami transactions, the disclosure shall be provided in the financial statements. Now, details of such property, including years of acquisitions, the amounts, the details of the beneficiaries, and if the property is in the books, then reference to the item in the balance sheet. So everything, if the property is not in the books, then the fact, why it has not been stated with reasons, where there are proceedings against the company under this law as an abater of the transactions, then the details, nature of proceedings, all these things needs to be mentioned in case of Benami properties. Where the company has borrowings from banks or financial institutions on the basis of security of current assets, like in case of SISI, your working capital loan, it shall disclose whether quarterly returns or statements of current assets filed by the company with the banks or financial institutions are in agreement with the books of accounts. Mind it, friends. This is something, again, that stock statement verification by the, how many of us actually do the stock statement verification at the time of audit? Nobody, I believe. If we get time, we try to, but now this is a requirement. You need to tally it, whether the quarterly returns or statements of current assets filed by the company, they are in agreement with the books of accounts. And mind it, at the same time, at the back end, the audit trail is there. The audit log is there. So be very, very particular that These all are getting, synchronized, all are getting matched. If not, a summary of reconciliation and reasons for material discrepancies, if any, to be adequately disclosed. Funds borrowed for a specific purpose and has not been used for the same needs, that needs to be disclosed. So you see, funds borrowed for a specific purpose and has not been used for the same needs. What does it indicate? It indicates diversion of funds. You have borrowed for a specific purpose, and the bank is tomorrow, when you place the financial statements, the bank will come to know that the fund is not utilized for that purpose. So it is basically a diversion of fund. You need to report it. Willful defaulter. Where a company is declared as willful defaulter by any bank or any financial institution, date of declaration as willful defaulter, details of defaults. What is willful defaulter? It means an insurer. It means a person who is categorized as willful defaulter by any bank or financial institutions. If you recall the RBI, this one is the RBI definition, willful default. Way back in 2007, RBI brought this thing: deliberate non-payment of the dues despite adequate cash flow and good net worth. Siphoning off of funds. All these things have triggered up due to this IBC only. Because here what we are finding, that in many means it is almost 99.99% of cases, unfortunate to say, but the attempt was deliberate. The attempt of this non-payment is mostly, in this direction only. And unfortunately, of late, what we are finding, that large number of cases are getting settled by huge haircuts. The recent one is the Videocon one, where you are finding that a huge amount of haircut might be allowed. Considering the prudency of the commercial aspect, COC has taken place, and finally it has been vetted by the Honorable Adjudicating Authority. So I'm not going into dispute or to that extent or to that aspect. But what is important is, now it is more of a prevention measure that has been crept in this Schedule 3 change, that willful default. And once you start mentioning all these things, might be it looks a little odd at the beginning, but I believe that in days to come, after 2-3 years, these things will be absolutely streamlined, and the stakeholders finally will come to know what exactly the position of the company is, in spite of having good curtains, in spite of having good decorations outside. So, because in case of your when we analyze when we do the the share market analysis, we always harp on the fundamentals of the company. That is important, not the technicals only. The fundamentals is very important, and here the fundamentals will come up. So deliberate non-payment dues despite adequate cash flow, siphoning of funds, assets finance either not been purchased or been sold and proceeds have misutilized. We have seen cases. The company has taken loan from a bank, defaulted, and this company did not pledge some other lands. In the meantime, when everything got stopped and the NPA was declared by the financial institution, this company secretly sold many of the other balance lands, which they didn't disclose to the bank. So misrepresentations, falsification of records, so all these things actually willful default, that was already told by RBI. And this needs to be mentioned now. Relationship with the stock of companies. Yes, where the company has any transactions with companies struck off under section 248. 248 means non-filing of the documents, non-filing of the annual return, the accounts. So the company will follow this. I mean, the register of companies will strike off the name of the company, and also the directors are generally, they also be disabled to function for 5 years. So we have seen a lot of cases, section 252 cases of the directors and 248 cases of this company strike off. In fact, voluntary strike off can also be done. That is STK in STK mode. So we have seen this, and this is a common established practice also in this Companies Act 248 section, has been used in many ways. But the important thing is, in many of the situations, what we have seen, that some shell companies got created by the promoters of this company, and finally they made certain advances, and all of a sudden that company did not file the annual returns, the accounts, and they were, striked off by the by ROC. Or in case of advance is not the right word, because if advance is it gets reflected, ROC will refrain himself to strike off. But in case of, say, any business transactions, so there it might be. So these are the situations where, but again, in case of advance also, I'm sorry, there I must add that unless a charge filing is done, this ROC cannot come to know, because the company is not going to file the annual return. The company is not going to file the accounts. So finally, what will happen? This company will be striked off, and the entire fund has gone away. These things happen. So now these disclosures will definitely curb this practice. Registration of charges or satisfaction with ROC, where any charge or satisfaction yet to be registered with the register of companies beyond the statutory period. You need to mention why it has not been done, the details. Compliances with the number of layers of companies, where the company has not complied with the number of layers in 287, 2 subsection 87, 2 layers actually. More than that, that needs to be mentioned, that needs to be complied with. Disclosure of ratios. This is for the first time. Current ratio, debt equity ratio, debt service coverage ratio, return on equity ratio, inventory turnover ratio, trade receivables turnover ratio, trade payables. So I believe there are 11 ratios are required to be mentioned. The company shall explain the items in this numerator and denominator, and if the variation comparing to your last year, if it comes more than 25%, then you need to explain, you need to give the explanation why it is, why this deviation, why this difference of more than 25%. Now, NBFC already, they need to disclose these things. Capital to risk weightage, their tier 1 CRAR. So these are already there, but in addition to this, you need to mention this, but this is applicable for all the previous ratios that I have already mentioned. Details in respect of utilization of borrowed funds and share premium. Transactions where an entity has provided any advance, loan, or invested funds to any other person or entity, including foreign entities. Transactions when an entity has received any funds from any person or entity, including foreign entity. Company shall give, this is notes to profit and loss account, that a company shall give details of any transaction not recorded in the books of accounts that have been surrendered or disclosed as income during the year in the tax assessment. The company shall give the details. Unless there is immunity for disclosure, immunity for disclosure under any scheme, and also shall state whether the previously unrecorded income and related assets have been properly recorded in the books of accounts during the year. This is very crucial because that means any additions, if it is legitimately done and if you have accepted it, that needs to be mentioned here. Unless any immunity is enjoyed, immunity against that disclosure. CSR disclosure. Where the company under section 135, now in CSR, actually, there is a very important change. I'm just considering the circular, the main circular. Yeah. Okay. Now, in case of CSR, first let us go through this, then we'll be coming to that. Where the company covered under section 135, the following shall be disclosed with regard to CSR activities. That is the amount required to be spent by the company during the year, amount of expenditure incurred, the shortfall at the end of the year, total of previous year shortfall, reasons of shortfall, nature of CSR activities. So all these things. You know what actually has happened? Actually, in case of this CSR matter, there during the time of the pandemic, government took, or government rather requested various blue chip companies to contribute more than what they are supposed to contribute. That is more than beyond the 2% limit. Because we know that the 2% is the limit for CSR on average of 3 years net profits. So in case of this, when they contributed more than the, the 2% thing, they actually requested for the respite in the following year. So on the basis of this, on 22nd of January, Ministry of Corporate Affairs has brought one notification where they have made certain changes. Change means here the most important change. This is actually GSR 40E. The board shall ensure that the administrative overheads. Very important thing is, in case of CSR activities, not more than 5% of the total CSR expenditure should be spent for administrative purpose. This is number one, as per this notification. Like in case of your, if you have handled any FCRA account, where the foreign funds come, there you have noticed that with effect from 30th of September 2020, the admin expenses maximum, you cannot spend more than 20%. But here it is more stringent, it is 5%. So your admin expense cannot go beyond 5%. You also must be aware that recently for NGOs, for Section 8 companies who actually wants to avail the CSR funds from various companies, they had to go for registration by filing CSR1 form, where actually they need to disclose certain things, and they are now under the scanner of MCA. Unless the companies cannot contribute to firms other than the firms which are actually having this CSR compliant, who are actually CSR compliant, only those firms, those NGOs can take the CSR funding from these companies, from the funder, from the funding companies. Now, any surplus, this is now as per the circular, this circular. this notification, that any surplus arising out of CSR activities shall not form part of the business profits and shall be plowed back into the same project or shall be transferred to unspent CSR account and spent in pursuance of CSR policy and annual action plan of the company, or transferred to any specifically designated fund account which has been opened to keep the surplus fund. So that means any surplus, if any surplus remains arising out of the CSR activities, it shall not form the part of business profits. It will be kept, it will be plowed back, and it will be finally reutilized, or rather utilized in the same project or in a project which is clearly defined only for the purpose of CSR matter. Now, where a company spends an amount in excess of requirement, this is important, under subsection 5 of 135. So if the company has spent out of, say, 100 rupees, if 2 rupee is my, as per section 135, is my contribution amount for CSR. So if I have spent already 5 rupees, so generally the difference, that is 5 minus 2, that 3 rupees is my excess spending. So in the following 3 years, I can enjoy this 5 rupees or 2 rupees, yeah, this 5 rupees for what I have spent extra in 1 year, and can be utilized for CSR activities. So in the following years, it will be considered as a compliant thing because as if I have already paid my CSR contribution for that in the following year. It will be actually carried over or carried forward from the previous year because I contributed extra more in the previous year. So this is important. Another important issue is that your any interest, say by keeping the fund in the bank, you are earning an interest. That interest cannot form the corpus of your profit. That cannot be utilized except out for the CSR activities. That should be utilized for CSR purpose. So this is, and that needs to be also mentioned in a greater details as per this CSR disclosure area of Schedule 3. This is the, I believe, the last one. This is about the cryptocurrency or virtual currency. Now, finally, we all are going for a new age, currency trading. Gradually, it is coming up, but again, it has got numerous and loads of risk factors, and government is really concerned about tackling these things. Because in cryptocurrency, the most difficult part as of now is there is no underlying asset. So once you invest, it has gone. And it has gone means it has gone from the Indian territory rather, because it has got no boundary. Cryptocurrency, virtual currency has got no boundary. It is not Indian money, it is Bangladesh money, it is Pakistan's money, it is US dollars. It's not like that. So it has got no barrier. That is a very difficult part of tackling these things. And there are various risk factors associated with this, which government as well as RBI, they're exploring. They are coming up with guidelines and with various issues which they are tackling. But as of now, whether the company has traded or invested in cryptocurrencies or virtual currencies, profit or loss on transactions involving these cryptocurrencies, that needs to be disclosed. Amount of the currencies held at the reporting date, deposits or advances from any person for the purpose of trading or investing in cryptocurrencies, that everything should be disclosed in the proper manner. This is not so important. So basically with this note, I I think, yes, I have come to the end. So let me stop the sharing first. And so with this note, I have already, finally arrived to my destination. So far the contents is concerned. There are other many things to discuss, but again, this will take, considering the constraint of time, I believe this is a right and suitable time at the weekend to conclude, because another 15 minutes, I believe, in hand. So if you want to come up with any question answer, with any discussion, so we have the time to spare. Thank you all. Thank you for giving me a fantastic hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Animesh. Devayan,
Yes, sir.
you're there. Okay, come. The question answers, please.
So, before I move to the floor, we already have one question from one of our past presidents, CA Kaushik Mollik. Whether disclosure is required to be made for additions made in income tax assessment for earlier financial year in the year under audit? If yes, how to disclose such additions?
Okay, Kaushik, whether disclosure is required to be made for additions made in income tax assessment for earlier financial year in the year under audit. If yes, how to disclose such additions? Right. Now, these additions, when an addition comes, when any, due to certain assessment, if any additions come, that additions you need to book in the accounts. Now, the point is, I believe this interaction, there are not so many questions, Devayan. So I believe if it is possible, Kaushik can also join. I mean, he's mute or what?
Kaushik, unmute yourself.
See,
Okay. Now, in case of any additions, what is now Schedule 3 is telling that in case of any additions, if that is not being done previously, that needs to be disclosed in the notes to accounts, that this amount is being, added on account of the assessment. And now why this assessment, I mean, why these additions have been done, whether this additions was done or this addition is done on the ground that certain disclosures were not being done previously, or this is something related to some other question of law involved. So that also needs to be judged first. But the most important part is if that addition is related to your hiding of certain income or underbooking of certain underbooking of income or overbooking of expenditure. So naturally, this actually is not the healthy sign in terms of the and once you have accepted without any disputes, or once you have accepted this, that means once the authority has come up with this judgment, so that needs to be disclosed in the notes that these are the things that has happened. Kaushik?
কৌশিক দাকে তো দেখছি না, নাম আছে অবশ্যই।
With all the details, actually this needs to be reflected in the notes. That is the thing. Previously this system was not there. Okay.
There are requests for the PPT.
Hello.
Yes. Now I am ready. I am ready with that.
Yeah.
I can speak. Animesh, can you hear me?
So, Kaushik da is there now, I think.
Kaushik.
Yes. Animesh, no, I was thinking.
Kaushik da, ইকো হচ্ছে।
I can't hear.
Hello,
Yes.
certain additions are made for technical reasons. For
Ah.
say section 43B, there is no non-disclosure of any income or such thing in that event. So, how do we disclose that? I mean, what is the requirement of disclosing?
No, Kaushik, my point is once Schedule 3 has stated this thing that unless that disclosure enjoys any immunity, unless it is specifically mentioned, that needs to be disclosed in the notes that this much of additions has taken place on account of these things. That is the thing. That is the intent. You need to understand the intent of the legislation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I interfere on this issue,
Who is speaking?
Mr. Speaker?
Gautam da.
Oh, Sanjay da.
Can I interfere?
Sanjay
on
da.
this issue?
Yes,
I
yes.
think- I think what has been stated in that Schedule 3
Yes.
is relating to disclosure of undisclosed income. It is not that all additions are arising out of undisclosed income. It is the specific undisclosed income only
Hmm.
which has been required to be disclosed in the company's account being out of books.
Hmm.
This basically is the purpose. Not that
That
all
is-
the additions which are made either because of quantification or because of disputes in difference of opinion. These need not be disclosed or separately stated. The effect of that goes to the accounts through the provision. I think would be the additional undisclosed income, like suppressed sale, maybe suppressed income somewhere. These need to be disclosed.
না গৌতম দা
Gautam da. Sanjay da.
ও সঞ্জয় দা আচ্ছা সঞ্জয় দা আমি মাস্ক পরে আছে বলে বুঝতে পারিনি সঞ্জয় দা আই এম সরি তো না that is okay. Now the point is that is what you're mentioning, that is absolutely on the track. I mean what it has been mentioned here, but one thing is very important, what we have seen, what we have experienced from the past. The point is there can always be the disputes that can be raised by the regulatory authority that why this has not been disclosed in spite of the matter which has been stated in Schedule 3. Point is whether this is undisclosed or not, or a disclosed income, that also that can pose a challenge to explain. So my suggestion is in spite, because in case of the additions is there, that can always be disclosed as a part of compliance in the notes.
Thank you.
So I think if there is any other question, one can always feel free to unmute himself and raise the query.
Animesh.
Eh?
Just I have the one question. You just now told that there are changes in criteria of small companies.
Eh?
This is happening. Changes in criteria of small companies.
Eh?
This 50 lakh. কোন বছর থেকে? From which year?
এটা তো অ্যাকচুয়ালি দিস চেঞ্জেস ইন দ্য স্মল কোম্পানি মানে যে ডেফিনিশন,
Yeah.
this has been changed in the month of June 2021
Okay.
when Honorable Finance Minister gave the that this thing addressing the nation ওই second time বোধহয় ওই সময় মানে, so it has come into effect from this 21-22.
That means 31st March 22.
এই 21 থেকে অলরেডি তো তার ডেফিনিশনটা চেঞ্জ হয়ে গেছে. Once
Okay.
the notification has come, it has already been changed. So
that
now we
means-
are actually having a changed definition of small company.
That means 31st March 21. If any small company falls under the new criteria, as of 31st March 2021, it will be applicable to them.
না 31st শোনো, পয়েন্ট ইজ 31st মার্চ 2021 এ এক নম্বর হচ্ছে যে এই দ্য চেঞ্জ উইচ এই পার্টিকুলারলি দ্য চেঞ্জ অফ দ্য দিস ডেফিনিশন, this came after 31st March 2021.
So
Number one.
31st March 22.
হ্যাঁ 31st 22 এর মধ্যে তো বটেই। Number two, in case of 2021, in fact, there is not much of, those benefits or those things are not much of there in 2021. So that is something which actually effective from 21-22. Whatever accounting, আমাদের এই schedule 3 and all, these are all getting effective from 1st April 2021. And later on in the month of June, this has also come.
Okay, another thing, you told that the meeting, the board meeting, difference cannot be more than 180 days. And you told up to 30th September 2021. Then tell me, say for the year 2021, 2020-2021, the year gone by, how many meetings there should have been?
See, এখানে কিন্তু বোর্ড মিটিংটা না ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল ইয়ারে হয় না, ক্যালেন্ডার ইয়ারে হয়।
Okay, so say suppose then for the financial year, say calendar year 2020, how many
আমার
meetings?
6 মাসে দুটো মিটিং করলেই হয়ে যাবে এখন।
2020, and for 2021, I mean, yeah, 2020, this year the year going, now we are going through this meeting.
হ্যাঁ, এখন তুমি আগে নিয়ম ছিল 120 ডেজ, তার বেশি বিয়ন্ড 120 ডেজ
হবে না, 4
cannot be
মাস,
there.
4 মাস,
Now
okay.
that it is 180, তার মানে কি 6 মাসে আমার একটা মিটিং এই হয়ে যাচ্ছে, আর 6 মাসে আর একটা মিটিং।
So তার মানে up to 30th September 2021 মানে কি?
Up to তার মানে কি এর পরে then again government will revisit, and
Okay.
if considered suitable, then again it will extend it. It will be extended.
Okay.
Otherwise, this will continue till 30th of September due to pandemic.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Any other question?
আর কি আছে? Any raise of hands or something?
Another
No.
question. What is the present status of Schedule 3, changes of Schedule 3? It is effective from 1/4/21 or 1/4/22.
no, 1/4/21, Caro has been deferred to 1/4/22.
Okay, that means it is applicable to financial year 21-22, not
Right.
2021.
No, not 2021. It has
Okay.
been effective. It has been effective from 1st April 21, with the exception that the usage of that edit log and that software, that will be effective from 1st April 22.
22.
And yes, and all other things will be effective for this ongoing period, that is 21-22. So it will be finally come into audit in 22-23.
So till 31st March 2021, the balance sheet which we are going to prepare now,
Same previous one.
audit now will be the previous format.
Previous one.
Okay.
And not much of change also there in the audit report.
Not much of a change in audit report also. Yes,
Right.
this needs to be confirmed.
Right,
And the second question is, what is the present status of DPT 3 filing?
right. In
Relating
case
to
of, yes,
kindly explain this.
yes, in case of DPT 3, there the specific circular has come on 30th of June, where I have also mentioned that in case of all the forms, the usual date with the usual filing fee, that means that will be considered till 31st of August.
That means the date extended till 31st August with normal filing fees.
Normal filing fee.
Okay, that is one point.
Previously it was 31st of July.
30th June was extended to 31st July.
Then 31st August.
Then it has again been extended to 31st August.
Right.
This I have understood. But what about the requirement of filing the form? If there is no qualifying deposit, do we need to file the form or upload the form at all?
See, if there is no loan in that way, if the absolutely there
If
is
there
no,
is no qualifying deposit, like say we have some deposits or we have some loan from directors, we have no
yes,
other
yes,
loan.
yes, you need to file. Don't take the chance. Please file it.
No, it is not a question of chance. What is the law says?
না মানে
Law
এখানে
clearly states, the law clearly states it is the deposits which are for which a statement has to be filed. And the law clearly states that the loan from director is not a deposit. Then why shall I file it?
that is true.
If that is true, then where is the
that is
question of
true.
taking chance? You can say by way of abundant precaution.
That is the মানে এটা
Not
এই
a question
ওয়ার্ডটা
of chance.
I
You can
I
only say that
I
by way
thought
of abundant precaution, you are advised to upload.
I thought to use this word with abundant caution যে যে এইটা অ্যাকচুয়ালি মানে সত্যি এটার কিন্তু কোনো মানে ইউ ক্যান অ্যাভয়েড ফাইলিং অ্যাবসলিউটলি ইউ ক্যান অ্যাভয়েড ফাইলিং
ক্লারিফিকেশন কোথাও পাচ্ছি না।
নেই মানে আনফরচুনেট বাট দিস ইজ নট দেয়ার।
অনেকগুলো চেঞ্জ হয়েছে এবার।
হুম
those changes virtually will create the life of auditors hell.
Particularly about this trail মানে to keep the audit trail, that is
Not
very
only
very
audit
important.
trail, various things have been described which cannot be virtually understood, perceived or implemented. I do not know what will finally happen to much younger auditors who will have to carry on these regulations for their lifetime. We have already passed majority of our time period for auditing. Maybe there are another 3 to 5 or 7 years more. We shall be crossing the hurdles. But then what will happen to the younger generation? I have no idea.
না গৌতম দা, again ওই abundant cautionের মতো based on the experience of Rupert Murdoch, life begins at 80. সুতরাং এখানে there is no point of, because মানে your experience, your guidance is always what we seek for. তো সেখানে there is no point of telling that আর 5 বছর কি 4 বছর, মানে it just মানে আমি মানে we are not accepting, the house is not accepting it. Now the next question comes যে এই যে entire situation, এই মানে এখানে কিন্তু একটা খুব important what I can share, that is nowadays every now and then the authority is issuing inspection notices. ওই 206 এর নোটিশ দিচ্ছে ফর ইন্সপেকশন টু কোম্পানি, আর তার ঠিক কপিটা পাঠিয়ে দেওয়া হচ্ছে অডিটরকে, and you need to appear to ROC or send a reply stating all the queries that he is raising. আর তার মধ্যে অদ্ভুত জিনিস, মানে এমনকি কেন ডিন লেখা হয়নি ডিরেক্টরের, why the auditor has not checked it, that question is also coming up. তো this is the scenario. ওই abundant cautionটা ওই কারণেই বলা আর কি, যে মানে এতটাই এখন যে একটা ডিরেক্টর কেন ডিন লিখছে না, the auditor is liable to check it. So anyway, so this is the situation.
মানে সবটাকে ছেড়ে ওই ধর আর কি,
না সবাইকে একসাথে ধরো হতে পারে দুটোই। Okay, so anything else? Otherwise
আর তো কোনো কোশ্চেন নেই বলেই মনে হচ্ছে। দেবেন
There is
প্লিজ
any more?
ভোট অফ থ্যাঙ্কস। দেবেন
Yes, sir.
হ্যাঁ ভোট অফ থ্যাঙ্কস দিয়ে দাও।
Okay. So, on behalf of the Accountants Library, I thank the past president of Accountants Library, C. Animesh Mukhopadhyay, who has taken out time for his very own Accountants Library and shared his knowledge with all present here today. And I must also thank those who have taken interest in attending this program and in making this program a grand success, along with the convener of the study circle, CA Anindranath, the deputy convener of the study circle, CA Anindranath Chatterjee, And in absentia, the convener of the study circle, CA Indu Chattak, our past presidents, CA Tushar Kanti Basu, CA Kaushik Molli have also attended this program. Our secretary, CA Sanjay Bhattacharya ji, CA Manish Tiwari ji, they have also attended this program. So my thanks goes to all of them, and my thanks goes also to the staff of Accountants Library who takes pain in organizing and helping us organize these programs. I must also mention that in the last 2 months we had many VCMs, and this is the third VCM that we have hold, and we will hold many more good programs. So please stay tuned. You will receive our mails, and I'm sure that you will attend the future programs. It is true that after the lockdown, now we are all getting out of our homes and trying to finish as much as work as possible, because we are also probably not expecting, but still uh, the third wave may come. So we are all pushing hard now, and that's why maybe we are unable to attend programs. But I assure you on behalf of the Accountants Library that we will come with very good programs, and we will surely be enriched when you attend these programs. And once again, thank everyone for attending this program and making it a grand success. আর অনিমেষ দাকে আরেকবার ধন্যবাদ. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Devang.
Oliver.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Thanks to all. Thank you.
CA Manish Tiwari, our president, is also there. I think he's traveling. He's in the car. So I also thank him. মনীষ দা,
President,
তুমি কি
thank you.
শুনতে পাচ্ছ? মানে আমি দেখছি গাড়িতে আছো, বুঝতে পারছি না। Thank you everyone.
Thank you. So can I leave?